What's going on, everybody? My name is Nick.
And my name is Dave.
This is the Deep Dive. And today we are, I guess, a good Thanksgiving special. Yeah. We had the special Thanksgiving sermon. It was a gratitude sermon, or a sermon around gratitude. Yeah. And, we'll probably talk about some things we're thankful for today, I assume.
Let's do that. I'm grateful for a lot of things. So.
I am as well.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. All right, Dave. Well, I know as part of your sermon, there was a series of gratitude things that you were grateful for. What are some other things that maybe you're grateful for before we get into the sermon? It can be fun stuff. It can be...
Gosh, I just have so much, and I talked about my wife, but I'm very grateful for my family. I know that almost sounds cliched, but I do love the love and support that I have from my family, from both my kids and their spouses, and my brother and sister. Just love them and just have such appreciation for them.
Yeah,
very proud of them and all their accomplishments. And so, how about you?
Yeah, I would say family, obviously, my all my girls and all that stuff. I just, I'm very thankful. They bring so much joy and life into my life, but also, for some other things, that maybe aren't as, I'm thankful for my patio. And I know that sounds weird.
Oh, we're getting to that.
But, okay. But I am.
That opens up a lot.
That opens up. I am thankful for my patio because, we've been able to host people over, and our house isn't a huge house by any means. It's a humble house, but the patio just gives us some great outdoor space to just be in community. We've hosted birthday parties, game nights, and stuff like that out there, and we invested in it a few years ago, and it's just been such a good investment for us as a family and stuff like that. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful. I'm thankful for this job. I'm thankful for the staff I get to work day in and day out with, which you'll kind of get into later. But, just such a fun crew, a lot of good camaraderie. It makes it not hard to come to work.
Yeah. I'm thankful for my Gibson F5 mandolin.
There you go.
That makes me a lot better than I am.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful instrument, and I'm grateful to own it and be able to play it. I'm thankful for all those guys that I play in the bluegrass band with.
Yeah.
And just that little time in my life, it just brings me so much joy.
Right.
I am thankful for some clergy colleagues that I have been friends with for 20 or 30 years, and how we've stayed together and stood together, and was with them all this past weekend, and just, going through some, kind of a difficult time in the life of our conference. It was good to be there and share it with some good friends that are supportive. I'm thankful that the Georgia football team won on Saturday after having kind of a crummy day in Athens. To drive back and listen to that game, man, I was grateful for that.
Yeah, it's definitely a good game if you're a fan of the Dogs. But there is a lot to be thankful for. I mean, we could sit here probably most of the podcast.
Sure, we could.
And just keep throwing stuff out there. But it all really centers and it just reminds us to be grateful for what we do have and grateful for the people around us. And as you are with family and friends, hopefully over this holiday season, just take a moment to step back and think about the things you're grateful for. And I know that, again, that's one of those like cliche Thanksgiving things. Sometimes people will share around a table or something, but it really is important because it kind of centers and reminds us of what is good. And
right. And really, my sermon Sunday was pretty simple.
Yeah.
But, I kind of began by this idea, which is a truth, actually, that there is this real link that can be done medically, psychologically, I think we just have it from our personal experience and knowing that the happiest people, if you want to truly be happy in life, then have a grateful heart.
Yeah.
It's the grateful people that discover happiness, because sometimes we would say, okay, well, people that have a lot, they would be more happy, right? I mean, but we all know people that have a lot of things, but they just don't seem to be happy because it's never enough.
Right.
They want more, or they want something different. And so, but if you can develop this sort of lifestyle of gratitude, then you seize every moment and you understand, I used a passage from 1 Thessalonians that essentially talks about that, that this is God's will according to Christ is to be thankful in all things. In all things, because there's some crummy things that happen in life too. Yeah. But if we can learn to, even in those moments, to realize that Christ is with us, to realize the richness and the blessings that we do have, even though we may be going through a tough time or a loss of some kind, that yet there is something to be grateful for. And that is really, I think, the key that unlocks us being happy people.
Yeah.
And all the things that we've mentioned make me very happy.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I think there's, that level too of like truly being grateful is understanding that times are going to come and go. I think about Paul often, how he would be in a jail cell sitting next to somebody else and just saying like how grateful he was for his weaknesses or something like that. It was like
singing in prison. Yeah. No one would.
And it's like, wait, what are you talking about? Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like all this bad stuff. How I imagine, I don't think I've done anything jail worthy, but that if I ended up there, that I'd probably be a pretty upset, sad person. You know what I mean? But
actually, yeah.
I think there's that, just that transcendence. And I think when you find someone who's truly grateful, they just seem to exude a happiness, but also it's like even like a deeper, like that joy, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like when you have that true gratitude where like you could be working in really terrible conditions, but you understand that you're doing it for the good for somebody else. That's just that joy seeks out as opposed to the
right. And you are hitting on like some differences and some nuances to what we're talking about, because you can't be happy all the time, right? But there's a joy that it's a deeper thing, and we really may be talking about joy. But I really do think that gratitude is what unlocks and leads us to having a happy life.
I think
and an optimistic outlook on life. And so, even though
I think because it shifts your focus.
Yeah, I think even though there may be moments in our lives that are very sad and appropriately so, I'm not saying that we should, fake happiness during those moments.
Yeah.
Because there are some unhappy things that happen. But when we able to step back and see the things that we are grateful for, then and I think it may be closer akin to what you're talking about with joy.
Yeah. I think it's one of those things that helps us, again, it kind of recenters us in a space of, like coming back to the things that not just make us happy to avoid our sadness, but things that we can say like, you know what, this stinks, this situation's terrible or whatever, but I can still find my joy, my happiness in what God has gifted me in and around that. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think especially I see stuff like that in when people say like, oh, we're having a celebration of life instead of like a funeral or something like that, because those tend to be stories about the things that they're grateful that they got to spend, these fishing trips with a person or these vacations or these times of just teaching, mentorship or whatever. That's what I hear more times out of like a celebration of life as opposed to a funeral. You know what I mean? And and maybe that's just a weird thing in my head, but it just makes again changes the focus a little bit.
Sure, absolutely it does. And so a majority of my sermon I spent on thinking about things around the church that I'm grateful for.
Yeah.
Because I am very grateful for our congregation here. One of the things that I talked about was that, we in February, I think was the first week that we did it this year, but we combined our modern service and our traditional service into one service, which is both of those things.
Right.
And, and something new. And I think what we discovered there, because I didn't know exactly how that would go.
Yeah.
But yet it took some time and some adjustments. And it is true that each group lost some things.
Sure.
But what we discovered that we gained is something very, very beautiful.
Yeah.
And now I have people all the time coming to me and saying, I didn't know if I was going to like it or not, but I really like it. I've really enjoyed that. And I think being together, it's built that community that we so desperately want and need.
Right.
And yet we've, you might have a remark about that. You said from your vantage point, you can see people singing and sings.
Yeah. Especially when the first couple of months, it was like certain groups would sing at certain times. Like, if it was a more traditional song, the people who came out of the traditional service would be the ones really singing, and then the others would stand around, and vice versa. Like when there was a more modern song, those people were singing that. And probably over the last 2 or 3 months, I've noticed that more people are singing more of the songs together.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's not as divided or split anymore. It's more of like, okay, this is what we're all doing now.
Right, and some of the traditional things that we were doing, which we hadn't been doing in the modern service, like the Apostles' Creed.
Right.
I think people have understood the importance of doing those kind of acts of worship alongside
For sure.
with some of the other more, for lack of a better word, contemporary things. And I think that some of the more traditional people are discovering that some of the communication things that we can do with media and things that we're doing in both, in the combined service now are meaningful, and they, to just other learning styles, different ways of approaching things. So, yeah, I think it's a beautiful metaphor for what we need to be doing in other parts of our life too, living in such a divided time, is that, there is a place in the center where you can find something that everyone can benefit from, and it is beautiful, and it's God's creative power and the Holy Spirit working in that. So I love that part, and I am very grateful for the open-mindedness that this congregation has brought to that. And it's
really, I mean, it was quite a brave step at some level, where it was a step of trust, at the very least, as we were like, hey, we're gonna do this. Just please don't freak out. You know what I mean? And then as they kind of walked into it, again, there was a little tentativeness at first, a little nervousness.
And I will say we did talk about it as a full congregation and actually took a vote on. And it was pretty overwhelming that people wanted to do this.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of the fifth Sundays that we had been doing together already that people were willing to try. Because we always said, hey, it didn't work. We don't have to do this forever.
Right.
So that was one real bright spot for me this year was that. And then there was just so many people and names to think. And, and I thanked Melanie for that, because Melanie has been the architect of that. Melanie Williams, our music director, and making sure that all happened. But, we have so many gifted lay people and lay leaders here. Some people doing upfront things, some people more behind the scenes things, but the things that we do in mission, the things that we do in all of our formation kind of groups, from children to youth to adults, there's just so many great lay leaders there in our administrative kind of roles like trustees and SPR and finance. Again, you've got some very, very gifted, very capable people who love this church and kind of see in the body of Christ thing that this is their role and in making it, all possible. So
and that's something like I would love to reiterate. Even is I know not everybody is in committees or anything like that. Although if you're interested, let us know. As a shameless plug, but me and Dave, we're at the front lines of being able to see hard work that's just congregation members put into loving this church. Spending hours creating reports so people will understand dollar figures or project skip backs or anything like that. And it's just impressive, and even in the meetings where you're planning events and stuff like that, how people are researching cost and fun and themes and stuff like that. It's really cool to watch people love and pour into their church for a variety of different areas. And unfortunately, we couldn't sit there and thank everybody, because we did a bit of 5-hour service, you know what I mean, of trying to find what everybody
I
did.
tried to get broad categories, and I was already going to ask you this question, so I'll go ahead and ask it
Okay.
now. So, in doing something like I did on Sunday, there's always this risk that you're going to leave somebody out. You're going to leave somebody that really needed kudos or affirmation. And so let me ask you, was there something that you said, hey, I wish he had done this, or said, or given credit to this person or this group? And if not, or is there something about any of those things you just say that you would like to add more about?
I think for the time you had, you were pretty comprehensive. I think maybe calling out like a Jenny Evans, maybe in a little bit of space of her leadership and not just this care ministry, but also with the Stephen ministers. She really is around a lot and juggling a lot of balls and stuff like that. So maybe more by name, somebody like that. Marianne and Drew, they get a lot of recognition in other places, but they're Swiss Army. Like again, we could sit there and just name, Craig Cheryl Hunters keeping up the ground. There's crews of people who are here helping.
It just goes on and on.
It could really become.
That's why I did general things, but let's do talk about Jenny.
Yeah,
that does open up this whole care ministry that is developed this year. I mean, there was Stephen ministry, and what I think initially happened was I think Stephen ministry were kind of the catalyst for it, but we had groups of people that were already doing a lot of these prayer and caring things, and what they kind of did was get it all together under one place where everybody keep doing what you're doing, but let's coordinate it so we're making sure that everybody is being covered.
Right.
Because I think the fear was that there might be, and there still might be, but the plan is not to have anybody slip through the cracks.
Well, and I think we found spaces where every now and then that we would find out somebody was, slipping through a crack here and there, whether the Sunday school didn't see him or we on staff didn't see it or whatever. So it's become comprehensive.
That group that they're committed to it. They've got a list, and every single church member is prayed for every week.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that is.
And this was all a brainchild of this crew and this committee.
It's all lay driven.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't set this up, and I think that's what's even more beautiful about it.
But they're super organized. They've got administrative people that are in there that really knew how to get the spreadsheets, and then they worked with Boker to get it all automated. So now it's part of our Connect card and stuff now. So, I mean, I am really excited to see where this is going to lead. I was in a conversation last week. I was in a conference meeting. It was a very small group of people, and it had to do with the Board of Ordained Ministry and some changes they would like to make. And so I just threw out the question, what is it that you're looking for in a pastor? And there were a couple of lay people in there, and one of them said something very significant. They said, prayer, strong prayer life. And, just talk about everything that we do to be bathed in prayer. And, well, first of all, I feel like I have a good prayer life, but it really did convict me a little bit. But, cause she was talking about her pastor.
Sure.
And, just, going to her, pastor who happens to be female and just the prayer support she received there. But, it's hard for me to pray for everybody in very specific ways. And the fact that we now have this channel that allows us, and then, they've been such a gift to me with knowing hey, they really need you in this situation.
Sure.
So I'm really excited to see where this is going to lead and what is going to unlock, in spiritual growth for our congregation over this coming year.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think those are spaces that I'm particularly thankful for and just grateful for, that people saw a need and said, I'm going to do this.
There's a lot of people involved with it too.
I know.
A lot. So they've done a fantastic job. And what really excites me about it is it's been lay driven.
Right.
They kept me informed, but there's not any expectation of, hey, you got to show up and lead this. It's like, hey, we're going to do this. It's going to
exactly. Even Sunday, Craig Sollenberger has been doing some of the correspondence, and I was on the email. He said, hey, I didn't hear back from you, And I said, "Oh, I got you booked and all that good stuff." I was like, "Are you wanting me at the meeting?" He goes, "No, you don't need to be at the meeting. I just want to make sure you knew what was going on." It was like,
he did the same thing with me. I was like, I'm going to be there.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be there just to be a participant.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. And then, some other things, I mean, again, run the risk of like leaving somebody out, but, just kind of mention the stuff that have happened with our children and youth here, because we've had some fantastic growth in our children and youth ministries this past year. The nursery, of course, that has to do with mamas and daddies having babies, but the nursery's going, I mean, I think it's the most they've had in the nursery in
a long time. Yeah.
And the youth group has doubled this year in size. And so that's it's not all about numbers, but numbers.
Children's ministry has grown too.
It does point to something.
Yeah.
It does to element of growth. So,
well, I think especially those three ladies, Connie, Nicole, Sarah.
Yeah.
You can tell the level of care they're putting into things, and I think the fruits coming back out of that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think people see that. It's good times.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to repeat the sermon, but I'll say this, and then maybe we can say our, happy Thanksgivings and done for today. Because we said we're going to cut this one a little bit shorter, but it looks like it's going to be about the regular length. That's just
what we do.
That's just what
we think sometimes it's going to be short, it goes long.
But our production team here, and just there's so many aspects to it, from what Bob Cox does every week to make Sunday mornings happen, with all of the media and then all of the support of the praise band and all of that, and then all that crew that's back in that booth.
Yeah.
You've got Scott there almost every week running sound, but a variety of other people that are sitting on that other computer making the media happen, to all the camera people that we have, to you got Frankie back there running sound that goes out for the internet, and you got Courtney with the social media stuff, and then you got Boker, who's heading it up,
evil genius mastermind over there.
Yeah, and what we do here with our production quality here for the size church we have, I think is the finest. We compete or compare with churches much larger,
absolutely,
than we are as far as the production level and quality that we have here. And Boker has a lot to do with it, but he also has some really good folks that he works with.
Between David, Frankie, Courtney, even the people who pop in from time to time to do cameras. I love seeing some of the youth up there doing cameras, so to speak. And something y'all might not know is that Nick actually gives some of those kids chances to do some of the media operations in there, so they're kind of getting on the spot training too, if this is something that they're interested in going.
So working, and trying to work with. I think some of in the tech schools around to give that opportunity.
There's some cool things, and they make us look great week in and week out. Here for the podcast, the special shoots. If you haven't seen the latest hot seat one that we just did, the Hot Weeks challenge with the pastors, go check that out. I think it got well over 1,000 views. And
no, many more than that.
Yeah,
it's the most viewed thing that I think we've ever put up. But anyway, I've lost track of it. It was like 3,500 the last time I looked. But so that was interesting. The Hot Wings thing that last week. If you haven't seen it, it should be easy to find you. But so we had a called annual conference on Saturday. You can don't Google that, but so it was kind of a tough day, and so I had almost forgotten that thing had come out this week. So and I walked in that day, and everybody I saw was talking about it to me, and then I had several people coming to me saying, "Hey, when's the next one? I want in."
Okay.
So
I hope you got a list.
I think I do. I think we have started something. But so that was light and fun. But at the same time, there was a serious side too, because we had preachers kind of talking about their call and about our connection as United Methodist and that sort of thing. So that's another positive thing. So there's a lot to be grateful for here at Hickory Flat Church. I'm thankful to be here. I'm thankful for you. I said it in the sermon, but I am, and I think we've had a great. We're not finished with 2023, but we've had a great 2023. Yeah, we're getting close. We only got 3 or 4 more of these left. So we have to do a Christmas special at some point.
Absolutely. Yeah. I remember we did well last year. That was fun.
Yeah. That's fun.
But I'm thankful for you too. You know, I think you are at the biggest bullseye of anybody here on staff, and I think you handle it with such grace and tact, you know, and I think you're also you're willing to let people lead, you know, and I've been with some pastors who are very like, this is my thing, I do it this way and only this way. But I appreciate how you're open to hearing us out, letting leaders be leaders, and also bringing people up behind to say, like, I know where I'm weak. Somebody come fill this hole for me. You know, that's brave to admit. So I appreciate that in you. And you know, as we do wrap up this podcast, remember, think about the things you were grateful for. We could be here for another 30 minutes just talking about things we're grateful for from the church or from each other or whatever. And, you know, it's just important to take some time to reflect during this season.
Yeah. And I'm not sure when you'll be watching that this week. You know, we usually come out Wednesday or Thursday. But it's going to be, Thanksgiving's going to be either about to happen or happening by the time you get this podcasted. So I do hope you have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving.
Yep.
And look forward to the Advent and Christmas season that's before us.
Absolutely. Enjoy your turkey. You know where to find us if you have any questions or thoughts or want to just add anything to our conversation. We'd love to hear it. Without further ado, we'll catch you next time.
All right. God bless.